When we start looking at examples of graphing hyperbolas, we're going to start first with the graph already done for us. Here in the first example we're looking at, notice how it opens left, right, that way. So I know right away that it's going to be minus h squared over x squared minus y minus k squared over b squared 1. I know that that's my form. X is first because it opens left, right. The center is pretty easy to identify. That's negative 3 comma 2, which is awesome because that's my k. My a value is the direction, how far I go in the y, sorry, x direction. So that's 1. My b value is how far I go in the y direction. That's 2. So I can actually write my equation already. It's going to be x opposite h plus 3 squared over, I'm going to put 1. You normally wouldn't because that's h squared. Minus, I have y opposite k squared over b squared, which is 4. And this equals 1. All of that is to write my equation. That's it. There's no more. Now when I start analyzing it, there's a little bit more to it. I'm going to hop around just a little. I'm going to get my vertices first. My vertices are the points on the graph that are on the box. So it looks like that is negative 2, 2, and also negative 4, 2. My c value, remember, is the square root of a squared plus b squared. So that's 1 squared plus 2 squared. So my c value is the square root of 5. And if we just check that out real quick, see what he is, square root of 5 is around 2.2. It's about 2.2. So when I think about, okay, the foci now are inside my graph. And they're inside the graph a distance of 2.2 away. So if I come to my center and go 1, 2.2-ish, puts it there, and 1, 2.2-ish, puts it there. So when I write out my equation, remember, the foci is just a deviation from the center. So I take my center, negative 3, 2, and notice I'm traveling in the x direction, distance of plus or minus root 5. So that's my, those are my ordered pairs for the foci. And the last thing I have to do is the asymptotes. You could try to figure them out using slope-intercept or whatever you want. You can also go back and remember that I gave you the y minus k equals plus or minus d over k x minus h. And we'll just plug everything into that. So my asymptotes, I'm going to do this here in purple. That guy and that guy. Take all the information I have. Y opposite k is minus 2. Plus or minus b, which is 2 over a over 1. And then I'll put it even though I don't need it. And this is parentheses x opposite h, which will be plus 3. So really what I'm seeing is if I distribute, I get y equals, this gives me 2x plus 6, and add another 2 is 2x plus 8. And if I distribute the negative 2, that'd be negative 2x. I get a minus 6, add that over, I get minus 4. So you can go ahead and just do those, write out what those point slope forms look like and solve them, distribute the 2, and then add this 2 over at the end. So those are the 2 attributes, and that's all the information about that hyperbola for the first example. Second example, we're going to decode this one also. Notice how he's opening up and down. So I know that it's y squared first, or just y first, however you want to say it. So if I get my information for the center, he's pretty obvious, negative 1 comma negative 1. And then the a is my distance in the x direction, so 1, 2, 3, 4. B is the distance in the y, 1, 2. The equation of the hyperbola, I have all the information I need there. So I know that it's going to be y first, at opposite k, squared, over, now be careful, put b squared in here. So that's 4, because b goes with y, minus x opposite h plus 1 squared, over 16 because the a value goes with x. This equals 1. The vertices aren't too bad to figure out. They're going to be chilling right there and right there. They're the points on the graph. So that's looking like -1, 1, and also -1, I just move the page and scroll back down. -1, -3. I don't know why I did that. My c value, square root of a squared 16 plus b squared, which is 4. Like the square root of 20. Now, I'm not a big fan of leaving it like the square root of 20. Reduce that to root 5. So the foci are now inside my graph, but the foci are going to be on the y direction because this is the inside of the graph up here, down here somewhere. So I go ahead and start writing out my center, which is -1, -1 plus or minus. I'm changing the y value to root 5. So I could write it out and see what it is. Square root of 20 is going to be approximately 4.5. So it's about 4.5. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Put my foci in. Lastly, the asymptotes. I can go ahead and write out my general equation, which is y opposite k equals plus or minus b over a. Notice that's 2 over 4. I'm going to write it as 1/2. And then x opposite my h. So if I do a little bit of math, I end up getting y equals, and again, you can write these out yourself if you want, 1/2 x, then I get a positive 1/2 and subtract 1, so that's minus 1/2. That's one of the asymptotes. And y equals, distribute the negative 1/2, get -1/2 x minus 3/2. And again, you can work those out and figure out what those are. So if I have the graph, it's not too bad in terms of going ahead and figuring out the information. If I don't have the graph, then I've got to go through and get all this information myself. So in this case, it starts out with an x first. So I open left, right, and I know that my center is going to be -3, 3 because I have h. Okay. My a value is the square root of that guy, so it's 1. B value is the square root of that one, so it's 2. That gives me enough information I can go ahead and graph this. And then we'll come back and do the rest of it. So if I go to -3, 3, -3, 1, 2, 2, 3, put that. Now I move 1 in the x direction, and it opens left, right. I move 1. And I also move 2 in the y direction, so it's kind of up there and down there. Now notice, those aren't really points on my graph. Those are going to be how I figure out this box. And there's my box. So if I'm thinking about actual points on the graph, I have my opening left and right, means the vertex and the vertex are there and there. So the vertex are going to be on that side and that side. And in terms of the asymptotes, you could figure them out and then graph them that way. Or the nice easy way to graph it is, like I said, it goes through corner of the box and the center. And this goes through the corner of the box and the center. So I can go ahead and get my graph this way. I'm going to follow the asymptote. I'm going to hit off the point, and I'm going to follow the asymptote. Follow the asymptote, hit off that point, and follow the asymptote. There's a really good picture of what my hyperbola looks like. Now the rest of this I can fill in just by finding the values and plugging them in. My c value is the square root of 9 plus 9. So it's looking like the square root of 18, because that's 8. Oh, I just picked the wrong numbers. Let me back up. I don't know why I chose the 3s. How about the square root of A, which is 1, and B, 2. So 1 plus 4, or the square root of 5. Sorry about that. So the square root of 5, we saw him earlier, is still going to be around 2.2. That's around 2.2-ish. So if I travel 1, 2.2, there's the foci. Notice how he's inside the graph. 1, 2.2-ish. Notice how he's inside the graph. I don't care about major and minor this time. Inside is all I care about. So the foci are moving in the x direction. That means I take my center and go plus or minus root 5 in the x direction, keeping the y value the same. And lastly, for the asymptotes, you can go ahead and write these out. It's going to be y and then opposite k equals plus or minus b over a, which is just 2 over 1 in this case, and x opposite k. So when I distribute, I get 2x, I get plus 6, and then plus another 3 is plus 9, and I get negative 2x, I get minus 6 plus 3 is minus 3. So if you look at my graphs, my sketch is fairly accurate. The lines aren't exact, but they're a pretty good approximation of where this is going. So there's my example 3. Lastly, I'm just going to jump over, hit example 4 really quickly. I only have about 3.5 minutes, so I'm going to move a little bit faster. My center is at, now notice, since y is first, this is opening up, down. So this is 8, and that's k. Don't just go in the order that we've been going in the whole time. Be careful about that. So it's 1, 0. A is the square root of the guy with x. He's 4. B is the square root of the guy with y, so it's 5. Got enough information to graph this. I go to 1, 0. I'm going to go 4 in the x direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in the y. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how none of these are actually points on my graph. They're just helping me get my box. 5 in the y. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. So if I just go ahead, this is going to be a big box, much bigger than the last one. Bring him across, up, right here is my middle box. I know the asymptotes go down through the corner of the box and through the center, through the corner of the box and through the center. Since he opens up, down, the actual points on the graph are going to be up here. That's one of my vertices. There's another one of my vertices. Just remember that you come down off the asymptote, hit the vertex, and then back up. Up, hit the vertex, and go back down. And that gets us a pretty good sketch of what this hyperbola looks like. Analyzing him very quickly, the c value is going to be the square root of a squared, which is 16, b squared, which is 25. So whenever I put those two together, I get 41. Now, 41 doesn't really reduce nicely, but his square root is going to be around 6.4-ish. 6.4-ish. So if I want to get my foci, I'm going to travel 6.4 in that direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.4-ish with there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.4-ish with me there. And to write them out, I deviated in the y direction. X stays the same, and then I have 0 plus or minus, which is just plus or minus root 41. Those are going to be my foci. And lastly, really quickly for the asymptotes, I get y equals plus or minus 5/4, and then x plus 1. So just go ahead and distribute that really quickly. Y equals 5/4 x plus 5/4, or y equals 5/4 x minus 5/4. And you can go ahead and figure those two out. I'm just running out of time in order to finish up in my 15-minute time limit. So there's all of that information on graphing that hyperbola. Hopefully you have enough that you can go through and do a bunch of these practice